California Governor Newsom signed a bill into law that will allow ex-prisoners who worked in the firefighting service for the state of California to become legally recognized as firefighters. Here's a clip of Governor Newsom as he signs that bill.
This bill that I'm about to sign will give those prisoners hope of actually getting a job in the profession that they've been trained. I brought this piece of legislation appropriately, I thought, here today that will give these future firefighters and emergency personnel a chance by getting them an opportunity to expunge their records, giving them a chance to get a certificate, getting a chance to potentially get a career ladder coming out.
Prior to this bill's passage, it was nearly impossible for those who served as prison firefighters to get a job in the field after serving in the program. How will this law look when it's implemented by the state agencies? What exactly does the bill do and not do? And what work will remain to be done to reform the prison wildfire fighting labor system? Here to talk about that are Assemblywoman Elise Reyes and Brandon Smith, co-founder and executive director of Forestry and Fire Recruitment Program, a nonprofit dedicated to helping ex-prisoner firefighters land jobs in the field after serving in the conservation camp program.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, thank you. Much appreciated.
Okay, this bill that just recently passed and was recently signed, it's going to have some impact. Councilwoman, can you explain to us what this bill does and what it means for firefighters that's in the prison program?
What it does is finally, for the first time, not just in California, but in the nation, it allows someone who was formerly incarcerated, who participated on the fire lines at the California Conservation Camp or with a county camp, fire camp, an opportunity to apply for and get an expungement of their felony convictions. The second part is that it also allows that person to not have to disclose that they have a felony conviction when they apply to get any kind of a state license, whether it's an EMT license or another license. And finally, when you apply for a job, you also do not have to disclose them.
Okay, Brandon, how does this, I know you've been fighting for this bill. How does this strike you, and what do you think the impact will be from your organization's position?
Right. Well, first I want to say thank you to the Assemblywoman and the state of California for passing this bill. I think the most important thing about this is the state, us as Californians, making a stance and saying that formerly incarcerated people do have the opportunity to hop into the fire service. For years, it was something that was considered, my son is here, wants to be here, excuse us. But for years, it was considered a myth or something that we couldn't do. And for the state of California, for us as Californians to come together and say, there is a pathway moving forward, it's just powerful. It's inspirational. I'm really appreciative of the opportunity to expunge specific crimes or modify conditions of parole and probation. And so us as at FFRP, we're really excited about that opportunity. We have over 700 people who have currently or formerly been incarcerated in the fire camps who are excited and who are ready to put in the work that's needed to transition into this space. So we're excited and we're going to continue with the work.
Okay, I understand, Councilwoman. I understand last session you put in a bill that directly addressed the EMT situation, which seems to be the holdup for prisoners getting license to become firefighters. That bill was defeated and there was a lot of pushback. What's the difference between that bill, which would have addressed the problem directly, and this bill here?
Actually, this bill goes even further. That bill in 2019, AB 1211, had more of an intent to it. We were saying we want to do something in this area, and we tried to work with the stakeholders to come up with a language for it. Couldn't do it. We had a lot of pushback, just as you said. But even before that, in 2018, I also introduced a bill that was going to do that also. That was AB 2293. We had lots of pushback. So we spent a lot of time with the stakeholders to try to figure out the best path, because we knew something had to be done. We can't continue to say, these are our heroes while they're incarcerated and fighting the fires. And then as soon as they come out, we say, who are you? We never knew you. So we knew something had to be done. And working with the stakeholders, it made a big difference. We got the Professional Firefighters Association to go neutral on this, which was a big deal. We had ARC and Scott Budnick and so many others working with us on the specific language of the bill to make sure that it did what we wanted. But the truth is, it goes even beyond just an EMT license. This is for every license that is given through the state of California, not just an EMT license. And so for that, I've got to tell you, I'm really proud, not just of the work from my office, but the work from so many stakeholders who worked with us and worked with the other legislators, because we've got to get 41 votes. We got to make sure that in the assembly, we get 41 people who say, I'm up on this. And in the Senate, we had to get 21 of those senators to say they were up on it. That's not an easy task, but with so many people recognizing the absolute injustice of asking people to put their life on the line while they're incarcerated and helping right alongside those firefighters. And yet when they come out saying there is no path forward for you to ever become a firefighter. There are a few exceptions, and I know Brandon will tell us about those few exceptions.
Yes, Brandon, that does lead me to the next question. And I do, flash just came over my phone that a California firefighter had just lost his life
Yes.
fighting fire yesterday, I believe.
Yeah, last night.
The path to getting recognized is you don't have to report that you have a felony and so on. But I understand in order to get that record expunged, the ex-prisoner has to go to the DA's office, the judge's office. There's a number of officials that have to sign off on this. Is that gonna, Brandon, is that gonna be a legal problem for people that get out? They go there, they're entitled, but then the government officials don't think that they qualify for that, and so they're denied. Is that going to be a problem?
Right. And so while this bill is like a great step to move forward, I still believe that we as Californians have a lot more steps to take to ensure pathways, solutions to this unique problem, right? It's an environmental problem and a criminal justice problem. One of the things that I akin this to is Proposition 64 in California that came out a couple of years ago, allowing folks, not necessarily in a similar capacity, but expungements for like marijuana related charges. And so where we stand at FFRP is we are here and available to work with the state and work with the assemblywoman and other parties to figure out how the implementation of this works. And then in addition to this, also wondering how actual agencies will respond to this, right? This being a state law, from my understanding, from the state down, they have to comply, but keep in mind, firefighting, wildfires are a multi-agency, multi-jurisdictional force. And so you have the federal government involved in things of that nature. And so I think it's great that California together, we've decided to make this formal stance. And now one of the things that we have to ensure is that there aren't systems in place within these hiring agencies, that there are still processes or discriminations that may still hinder folks. And lastly, I just want to say that firefighting is a way of life. While I was in fire camp, it recentered my purpose of life. I found a way to give back to a community, to my community that was helpful. And when I got home, that's all that I was really talking about and trying to do. With firefighting being a way of life, we understand that this pathway is not for everyone. And folks need to really work hard to hop into this space. The only thing that we're asking for is the opportunity, not necessarily to prove ourselves, but to go operate into this space. So we're appreciative.
Can you talk about what needs to happen, next steps? I mean, because this bill obviously, if opens the door, it creates favorable conditions, but more stuff needs to happen. Do you have any idea what needs to happen next?
Well, first, I do want to say that when somebody comes out of prison, on day one, they get to apply. And the notice goes to the DA, but it isn't as though the DA has to sign off. The application is put in just like any other expungement. You put the application into the judge, either the public defender or your criminal defense attorney is going to then argue the case for you. The other part of the bill also provides that it's without prejudice. If for some reason the judge says, I don't think I'm going to give this today, it's without prejudice. That person can still apply again. The second part also is that once the expungement is granted, parole, everything, every supervision of that formerly incarcerated person is terminated. That's it. The way expungements work now, you have to wait until you're out. You have to wait until you finish your parole. You have to wait till all of this has happened. And then you may get an expungement. Well, you still have to notify the state of California when you apply for a license. This bill really is so far-reaching. I've received calls from our public defender and also from some of the criminal defense attorneys that I've worked with over the years, especially when we did Prop 47 expungements. They really are excited about just knowing the possibilities of this bill. It's far-reaching, but Brandon is correct. And Eddie, you are correct. There's so much more that we have to do. And I've talked to many of my colleagues about this. Quite frankly, many of them were surprised we finally got this bill through. But it is a first step. There are so many other things that we have to do to provide true second chances, to say that when your sentence has been completed, you're done. It isn't a life sentence. You had a sentence, you complied with whatever the sentence was, and you're done. But the way a lot of these things happen, they become life sentences. We know that's how it was for any license in the state of California, for housing, for education. So we have to find ways to get to the point where you serve your sentence and that's the end. It isn't a life sentence, which is the way it has been. So there's more work to be done. I have great colleagues there in the State Assembly and in the State Senate who have been working on in this space for years. I've been there for 4 years, and this is the third time that I've introduced legislation specifically on this, because I knew something had to be done. But there's more work to be done. And I look forward to working with Brandon, because he has life experiences that will help us to put together language and bills that can get through and get voted on. But sometimes it does take a more compromise than others. This particular bill, I'm really happy to tell you, did not have a whole lot of compromising with anybody else. We got a lot of what we wanted in this bill.
Okay. Brandon, address this issue if it's possible. I understand that it's a privilege to get in the firefighter camp and in the firefighter program, and the conditions and the quality of life is drastically different than being behind a penitentiary wall. But I understand that most of the people in these programs make $2 to $5 a day. Do you think maybe increasing the amount of money that they're paid, since obviously they're in a job that means they could be killed any given day? You think increasing that amount of money would also change the people's attitudes in the larger community, but also make it easier for people to get in and out of the program in a faster kind of way?
Okay.
Because, I mean, if you got a firefighter that's making $5 a day, I mean, that's, oh, wow. That's pretty good,
Right. And so I'll tackle it in two different ways. So one thing is, I'll say that while incarcerated, and it's still true today, it was the most highest paying job that you can go get while incarcerated. And I would say, like, you know, getting $5 a day plus $1 an hour. While I was incarcerated, I was getting $2 a day plus $1 an hour while I was working on fire. But that was, I mean, immensely higher than making like 10 cents, 8 cents an hour for doing, you know, tasks. So the job was the most high paid job. One of the things I would point out, though, with this is that so post COVID, once COVID hit, right? Pre-COVID, we had about 200 fire crews out in the state of 20 folks, averaging 15 to 20 folks. Post-COVID, there are about 100 of those crews, right, of incarcerated people. And so the state had to come to some solution with that. So Cal Fire, Tom Porter, all those folks. So the same incarcerated bodies that are making $5 a day and $1 an hour, the state is now hiring those folks, and they are making $3,700 a month plus overtime, right? So the same person that is making $5 a day plus $1 an hour is making $3,700 a month plus overtime, which is a very good portion of their salary. So you're paying somebody like an exponential amount more money to go do the same job that they were still doing while incarcerated. So I think there does need to be a conversation. Oh, my son's going to sleep. I think there does need to be a conversation around wages, and I think there's a way to provide a solution for that. I don't know what the answer is. I believe that us together as Californians can come together with a solution. One of the things is, like, just to say, I don't blame this on CDCR, on CAL FIRE, on the state. I think this is just a challenge that we as Californians have faced for like the past over 100 years, and it is what it is. So it's up to us to all come together for a solution. All right. And like when you look at the optics, which is really real, like the majority of firefighters in the state or in the country are white men compared to the majority of people currently incarcerated, people of color and women, right? The optics of that and the wage conversation is a real conversation that we need to have. So I don't know the answer, but I know that we, as we can figure it out. So I'm down to like have conversations to see how we can figure it out.
Final words or thoughts you want to share, Assemblywoman, with the public?
I think specifically on the issue you just asked, Brandon, I agree. We need to look at this just in general. But I will tell you that with all of those who were in the fire camp, none of them complained to me about how much they were being paid. And that means a lot to me, because as we were trying to figure out how to move forward with the bill, we wanted to address the issue. This is a problem, but knowing that they were getting 2-for-1 credit on the sentence, these are things that were being offered, and which was a good thing. But still, the pay is something that we have to look at. It's something that it's not just for those in the fire camp, but just the amount of money that is being saved. I will tell you that California saves over $100 million every year because of the incarcerated inmates, firefighters. It makes a big difference. So there is more to be done, and I look forward to working in this space. I've made lots of friends who are concerned about what is happening, specifically to those who are fighting the fires and putting their life on the line. So I think all of us together should be able to come up with other solutions that can be moved forward. I mean, when you have a governor who's willing to look at this, and who also, the governor is the last word on this. He could have vetoed the bill, but he had lots of people talking to him, people that he trusted, that were saying, this is something we have to do. I mean, it's not a big deal perhaps, but the fact that the Lakers tweeted about this, that was a big deal, because they are trying to make a change in criminal justice reform, in justice in our society. When you have those sorts of things happening, it's part of a movement. And I think that we were at the right place at the right time to get this bill through. And I thank everybody who helped us get it through. It wasn't just me, and it wasn't just my office. It was a whole lot of people convinced that we needed to do something.
Okay, Brandon, any last thoughts or words you want to share?
Yes. So I'd like to say that FFRP, we are here and we are fully committed to all of us together as Californians developing a solution to this to keep moving folks forward. we all know that there's a dire need for more firefighters. And so we're here to help with that cause. FFRP, we currently have 2 program components. One of the things is that we help formerly incarcerated folks transition into the space professionally with like the Forest Service, CAL FIRE, different private county agencies. But also what we do is we attack the problem also on the environmental stance. So right now, FFRP has 4 crews throughout LA and San Bernardino counties, and we're actually doing forest thinning projects, defensible space projects, fire prevention projects, post-fire cleanup projects. And so if there are any landowners, stewards, assemblywomen, or anybody who like has projects and needs to have forest thinning work done, like we have a group of people ready to go and ready to support right now to help on multiple levels. And so what FFRP is doing is we are trying to model a situation or a solution, a possible solution that we can adopt as a state to really solidify this work. Because, and I agree with the assemblywoman, it's not, even though so many folks are focused specifically on fire, there's also a lot of work and labor need when it comes to being a forestry technician, doing fuels reduction, working with the utility companies to protect the power lines and clear trees around there. Folks in fire camp also do administrative work. I knew barbers, I knew clerks, folks who are cooks, right? So this applies to a very large amount of people. And we're just appreciative, and we're here. And we believe that those formerly incarcerated should have the opportunities, if they choose, to hop into gainful employment that can not only help themselves, but their families, so that they can be role models to their communities and also reduce recidivism. And we can help the state of California together. We're California, let's do it.
Okay, thank you, Assemblywoman Eloise. Thank you for Brandon.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you all. I appreciate you.
And thank you for joining me on this episode of Rather Than the Bars.